Hey, welcome back everybody. Today I have two guitars that I want to talk a little bit about, and in a series of guitars from Squier, Fender Squier. And this is the 40th anniversary vintage series. Now, for those of you that are familiar with this line of guitars, they have two. One is a gold series, one is a vintage series. Now let's just talk a little bit about what the differences are up front. So we'll talk about what's similar first. So whether you get this series of guitars, which is the vintage series or vintage edition, or whether you get the gold edition, the bodies, the wood on both of these editions are Nyoto or NATO wood. That's what the bodies of the guitars are. Fretboards vary depending upon the color scheme and color pattern, right? Now, I believe on this line of guitars, which is the Strat, you can only get a maple fretboard on the vintage edition. But if it's a Tele style guitar, you can either get a laurel fretboard or a maple fretboard. But the woods are NATO or Nyoto. What else do we have to talk about? Pickups, they're the same on both the gold edition as well as this vintage edition. They are Fender designed Alnico 5 pickups. That's what's in these guitars, both the Strat version and the Tele version, whether it's a vintage edition or a gold edition. What else? Trying to think of similarities. They all come with these anodized pickguards on the guitar, which is a metal designed pickguard. Tuners, they're all the same. They're vintage, like Goto vintage style sealed tuners on these guitars. And trying to think if I missed anything. That's really it. So, let's talk about what's different and why I have now, as you can see, two vintage model or vintage edition guitars versus the gold series. Now, I originally bought, if you remember or follow this channel, the first 40th anniversary guitar that I bought was a gold edition, which I've since sold and replaced with this vintage edition. Now, let me just bring you guys up to speed and let you know once again, these videos are not sponsored. I do not get any. I'm not lucky enough to get any guitars gifted to me to review, right? Or lent to me or loaned to me or whatever the case is to review. Everything I have, I buy. And I typically buy at a substantial loss, unfortunately, because in order to buy more to review, I have to sell guitars. And when I sell them, I don't get back what I bought them for. So, neither here nor there. So, these videos are not sponsored. The links that I put to all of my guitars, they're not affiliate links. So, I don't see anything for these guitars. I have no reason at all to give one opinion because I'm pressured by a manufacturer to give that specific opinion. These are my opinions. So, in any event, and that's just that, my opinion, for whatever it's worth. So, reason I have this, let me get this off here, vintage edition now in both these models versus the gold edition are for these following reasons. I like the way, believe it or not, this guitar feels. It just feels comfortable to me. Again, to me. It has a matte finish, as you can probably see, on the body, and a matte finish on the back of the neck. The Gold Series has a high gloss finish, obviously polyurethane gloss finish on the body as well as the back of the neck. And I don't personally find that as comfortable, or right feeling is a better word to me, as this guitar. This guitar feels just comfortable. It feels like it's been played for a while. And I really like that. So I didn't also like the fact that although they probably have identical specs, the fretboard seemed a tad bit narrower on the Gold Edition Strat than it does on this Vintage series. And it might have just been the nut, right? Because the string, the high E string, I felt, was too close to the edge of the fretboard. And this is close to the edge of the fretboard as well, but not quite as close as the other guitar. Now again, it could just be a setup or a nut issue, but again, this guitar feels better. I like the matte finish on the neck. I like just the way overall that this neck feels to me. The other thing that's different on this guitar versus the Gold Edition is that the tuners and the hardware on this guitar are brushed metal, right? They're made to look worn. Like that's, I guess, where the vintage comes from. So that is a difference as well. And also another nit, but again, to me, it's a personal thing and it's a preference, right? I like the smaller headstock versus the large headstock. Now, I know a lot of people like the large headstock, and there are wood folks out there that feel that a bigger headstock, and I think Robin Trowers even said this, that a larger headstock gives you more resonance on the guitar. I don't know if I buy into that, to be honest with you. I don't think the woods matter a whole hell of a lot, but again, who the hell am I to say? But I like, aesthetically at least, I like the way this smaller headstock looks. Another nit and minor detail is the Squier that's across the headstock on this vintage series is in gold, which just gives it an added level, in my opinion, of niceness, right? On the Gold Edition, you would think this would be gold, no pun intended. It's black, the Squier logo. So, you know, how do you figure it, right? Also, a nit, and again, it's just cosmetic, but that Gold Edition has block inlays, if you recall, right? Like Gibson-esque block inlays on the neck of the guitar, and binding along the neck of the guitar, white binding. And again, the white binding is fine because it actually, you know, prevents the frets, I think, from probably having fret sprout or whatever, I don't know, but I don't like block inlays on a Strat. That's just my personal opinion. I'm a purist. I like the dot inlays. That's what a Strat has always had. That's what I'm used to. That's what I like. Again, minor thing. And also another minor thing, but for whatever reason, whether it serves a purpose or not, and on maple necks it's supposed to serve a purpose in terms of the truss rod routing, is this skunk stripe, right? Which I like. The Gold Edition with the glossed neck on the back does not have a skunk stripe. Again, cosmetic, whatever the case is. The hardware on the Gold Edition, right? Obviously, is gold. Tuners are gold. The bridge is gold. Everything that is chrome on here is gold on the Gold Edition. Again, if you like that bling, you will like the Gold Edition. And guys, that's really the main differences between the Gold Edition and the Vintage Edition of these 40th anniversary guitars, right? In summary, matte finish versus gloss finish on the Gold. Gold hardware on the Gold versus gold or silver and brushed metal, I should say, brushed chrome hardware on this Vintage Edition. Smaller headstock versus the larger headstock, the smaller headstock being on the Vintage Edition. Yeah, and the body is also a matte finish versus a gloss finish. And similarly, the neck being a matte finish. Those are really the major differences between the two guitars. Depends upon your personal preference. Mine is for this model. I like the Vintage Edition. I'm not plugging any of these in because you already have been subject to nasty playing on my previous issues with videos with these guitars. So if you go to the channel and search, you'll see reviews of both of these guitars and demoing of the guitars. Okay, now let's get to this telly. Here's the telly, right? And we'll talk a little bit about the difference. Now the other thing, elephant in the room with both of these guitars is weight. If you have a bad back or you are looking for a lighter weight Strat or Telly, do not buy these guitars. And I emphasize, do not buy these guitars. Both of them weigh exactly the same. I just weighed them prior to the video. 9.6 pounds, at least for my guitars. Both are identical weights. 9.6 pounds for both this Telly and the Strat. That's approaching a Les Paul in terms of weight. So again, if you're a musician, playing out, and you're standing for a long period of time, could be an issue, right? If you have a bad back or whatever the case is, a smaller statured person, it could be an issue. This is a heavy guitar. You will get a workout lifting this thing regularly for extended periods of time. Okay, so that's the elephant in the room, is the weight of these things. Now, other than that, again, I really, really like the way this Telecaster feels as well. For all the same reasons I like the feel of the Strat. The matte finish I did not think would appeal to me. When I first got it, I was saying, Jesus, I'm not sure if I'm going to get along with this matte finished body on these guitars. But now that I have them for a while, I really, really like the way they feel. They feel comfortable. They're not sticky. Some people complained on the forums that they bad on fingerprints because they're matte finished. I have not seen that yet with these guitars. I'm really digging the matte finish. I also like the look of the black binding on the front of the body and the back of the body on these guitars, on the Tellys. The Gold Series edition, the gloss finished Telly, does not have the binding. And I believe, let's talk about the comparisons and differences. They're not much. So if you get a Gold Series or Gold Edition Telecaster 40th anniversary, I believe it only comes in one color that I've seen. And that's black, gloss black with a white anodized pickguard, right? Or gold, I should say, anodized pickguard on that guitar. That's it. Gold hardware, again, all the same stuff, right? Versus this brushed metal. Pickups are identical. These, again, are Fender-designed Alnico 5 pickups. Everything else is the same. But I believe there's only one color in the Gold Edition. It's the black. In here, you can get several colors. I happen to like this. I believe it also comes in a red, and it might come in one other color, a seafoam green or something like that. But I really like this vintage blonde color on this Telly. What else? That's really the main thing. Like Nyoto body, the whole bit. All right, maple fretboard. It's kind of both on the Strat as well as this Telly. You can see it's an aged maple. It's a darker maple. Almost looks roasted, but it's not according to the specs. So it's just a regular maple neck and fretboard with some vintage coloring to make the wood look aged and older. I like the fact that although it's vintage and they made the stuff brushed, it's not relict, at least until I do it. So that's the main difference between the gold and the vintage edition of this guitar. I like the vintage edition. It's up to you. You let me know in your comments if you have a gold edition and you feel otherwise. Put them down below. Let us know. But again, this is my personal preference. These guitars have nice resonance acoustically as well. So, if you want to play them and strum them about without having to plug them in, you could hear the guitar. Yeah, they're nice guitars. I mean, and price-wise, can't beat them, in my opinion, if you get a good deal. And these have come down in price. Originally, they were like ridiculous. They were $5.99 because they were a limited edition or, anniversary edition. Then they were brought down to $4.99. I see them frequently for $3.99. This is currently $2.84 and change at Musician's Friend. That guy is $299.99 at Musician's Friend, the Strat, or Guitar Center. So, for the price, they're slightly more than the Affinity line for Squier guitars and significantly better in terms of quality. So, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it on the 40th anniversary vintage edition of guitars from Squier. If you like these videos, please subscribe. Any questions or concerns or anything, put them below in the comments. And as always, guys, until the next time, be well and stay safe. Take care.